brother Luis Baez.
What's up, man?
What's up?
I actually didn't hear any music.
Oh, for real? Well,
Yeah,
it's all
yeah.
good. You can't hear it, but everybody else can.
Okay, cool.
But how's it going? We're here finally with the guest for the first time, Mr. Brian Ramirez. How's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
I'm good. Unfortunately
We're
for
good.
me and my brother, Saturday wasn't as good. Sunday wasn't as good for us as it was for you. You got first place at the League Cup at Strike Zone, which we'll be talking about a little bit later. But I guess at first off, we wanted to talk about Fort Wayne that just happened this weekend as well.
Yeah, but real quick, now that we have like a decent audience, this episode, one of the things I wanted to point out at the beginning is like what we're trying to do with this show, if you're watching now, is make it a show about the Houston scene and eventually kind of spill over into like Austin or San Antonio and Dallas, and make it a show about Texas. I know that like if you've ever played, in the Magic community or the fighting game community in the FGC, like one of the like really intriguing things about keeping up with that coverage is kind of like the East Coast versus West Coast, or like Texas, and kind of how the regions fit into the conversation. And I feel like in the and Brian, you've been playing for a longer time than Michael and I have, because we didn't really get started till last December. So feel free to jump in on this. But I feel like on Facebook and among the websites, like there's really not, there's always a discussion around like the national scene and the big meta games going into regionals, but there's never like a, hey, which state is the best or which region is the best. And so I kind of want to, if you go to YouTube now, you're going to find tons of YouTubers who do, hey, watch me play, or hey, we're going to talk about some of these decks, but like there's nothing really there that talks about local scenes and how we can like stir up a little bit of smack talk and stuff like that. Do you get that impression, Brian? Like, given the history of the game, it's just kind of like right now there's a bunch of big, large coverage, but there's nothing kind of like on a scene to scene or coast to coast kind of basis.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know anything like that though. I don't really pay attention to like YouTube channels and stuff. Like, I only know like those big ones that do all that stuff. But like, nothing that really covers local scenes or anything.
Yeah. So that's
pretty cool that you guys are trying to do that.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't get famous by qualifying for Worlds and winning cups, then we're gonna find a way. But
we're gonna find people.
Right. But in all seriousness, like, it's just, I think it's one of the ways to kind of like showcase the Houston scene in particular too, because like, man, like every time there's a cup in Houston, it's kind of stacked, and when they usually post like, hey, here's a cup in Maryland, or here's a cup in California, and like you'll recognize one or two names or something like that, but if you go to a cup in Houston, you're going to recognize like a lot more names. So
Houston is honestly big though.
Yeah,
it's like we get a lot of the good players that come by. Like, I mean, we already begin with some good ones. Like, we have Brad, we have Kettler, who just got second at Nats. Who else? We got Herman.
Yeah,
so we got a good amount of big names.
Yeah, and so I kind of want to showcase that a bit, and again, kind of from scene to scene in Austin too. Like, because when we go to Austin, there's Wade and there are a couple of other players, and then I don't really, and we can talk about this a little bit later, but like you played in the finals against somebody from San Antonio, right?
Yeah, it was somebody from San Antonio.
Yeah, and I like that aspect of it. Like, hey, like sometimes if there's not a cup in your city, you're gonna want to drive out and like dominate someone else's cup, and that's kind of cool.
Exactly.
So yeah, I just kind of wanted to get that out there before we talk about what we normally talk about. So appreciate you taking the time to kind of kick this whole thing off with us. Problem. So Mike, you were talking about the Fort Wayne regionals.
Yeah. So Fort Wayne regionals just happened, and looking at it, I think as we were testing for Expanded, we were just looking at stuff like Night March and stuff that was classically good in Expanded, but now we'll have Fort Wayne to tell us like where the meta is and how like Gillespie or Turtonator and Garbodor are going to affect Expanded. because that's something we hadn't seen since Toronto. So if we have up right now on the screen is the percentage of the decks played by Worlds players, and it looks like most of them played. The biggest decks played were Galissapod, Turtonator, and Garbodor. And although I won't be able to look at all the whole list right now, but it's just interesting to see that all that stuff is basically Burning Shadow stuff, and that the older stuff like Night March is sort of fallen over to the wayside a little bit.
Yeah, I obviously some of the first couple of shows we were doing touched on Expanded a little bit, and that's all really because we had that cup scheduled for the 26th at Cytex, which is going to be expanded. And so, yeah, it was kind of interesting to see that Night March, an old kind of archetype. Well, I don't know how old it is, but one that definitely wasn't standard legal last season. Kind of take that tournament. Do you have the top 8 list?
I'm pulling it up.
Okay.
Championship event results.
Yeah, Brian, did you see those results or have any thoughts on kind of the expanded?
I saw for the most part, it's pretty cool. Night March has been dominating the format for a while. I know I played it for a while too.
Yeah.
It was at that point whenever it was in states. We used to have states before, and now they got taken out.
Yeah.
But whenever states were going on, that literally you had 3 of the decks that were mostly played, whether it was Night March, Trevenant, or Greninja.
Yeah.
So eventually, I made the mistake. I didn't play Night March for the first 2 states, and then I'm like, you know what? Everybody's playing this deck. It's apparently good, and I'm like, all right, cool. I'll play Night March. So I played it at Oklahoma State's top 8 Oklahoma States, and then I'm like, oh, okay, I'll just play it again next weekend at Louisiana. Same thing, top 8. And so Night March, it's a really good deck. If I were to go on to Fort Wayne, I was honestly going to consider playing Night March, but I didn't go instead because of that Houston flood going on. So
yeah. And we're going to talk a little bit about the efforts that a couple of people in the Pokemon community are kind of taking up or spearheading to give some relief to people in our community or the Pokemon community that have been affected by it. When we were playing a little bit with Expanded, we tested out Night March, a little bit of Turbo Dark. The only deck that I ever did any decent with last season was Rayquaza, so I played around with that. I played around with it a little bit too, but the problem was hey, everybody, most of the decks in Expanded, at least before this event, a lot of them contain one prize attackers. So it's kind of hard to face that with Ray.
See, me, sadly, I never had any luck with Rayquaza. I always try to play Rayquaza. My friend Mark, he always gives me a hard time about it. Anytime you play Rayquaza, I'm just not going to talk to you. I like playing Rayquaza, but it wasn't the right call at the tournaments I ever played it. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think the part of it too is it's if you were to rank, at least from my perspective, the most simple or dumbed down decks from last season, it's Rayquaza and Turbo Dark are definitely up there. There's definitely a lot of salt when you just see somebody do 240 on turn 2. But that being said, I didn't see a Rayquaza in the top 32 at Fort Wayne. Night March took it. I think you mentioned this, Michael. Night March ended up taking it over a Turtonator Volcanion deck. And in the top 8, there were Galissapod, Garbodor. There was a Gardevoir GX deck in top 8, and Israel Sosa went with some more dark patches and got in with kind of a dark deck.
He played Eviltal, I believe. Eviltal with the toxic lasers.
Yeah, those lasers. Yeah, I didn't know about lasers obviously until they announced this big expanded schedule.
Yeah, lasers used to be big back in the day. Eviltal used to play lasers, so it went out of I guess favored. Nobody wanted to play lasers after the Maxis engine came out because Maxis Gallade was much better or stuff like that. So you don't really need lasers.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. What do you? Let me ask you this real quick while we're on the expanded subject. The Dallas regional this season is going to be expanded. Has it alternated here in Texas before, or like has it always been standard in Texas, or what's that?
Well, we used to have it. We used to have a Houston regionals, so it used to be in Houston. Last year was the first time that they ever made it like as an official Texas regionals, and last year was the first time it was hosted in Dallas. So I mean, it's pretty cool, but it's always been like a standard kind of thing. Like we never had an regionals. I believe in 2015. It was the same how it is now, where it was a stand. I believe all regionals were expanded back in 2015 season, 15-16. It was either 15 or 16 or one of those that every regionals was at least expanded, I believe.
That's wild.
Okay.
Oh, that's wild.
So yeah, I kind of like the Night March deck. I know that there is an expanded cup coming up like in the next 2 to 3 weeks here in the Houston area. So we'll see what happens with that. Hey, Michael, did you see the Turtonator Volcanion list? Did you see that list had been going around?
No, I hadn't seen anything about it really.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah.
I imagine it's pretty much the same with Blacksmith and stuff, but I'll get a good look at it later this week.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's one of those things where everyone's gonna, at least in Texas, like unless you're going to another expanded regional, you're probably not gonna think about it unless we got a cup coming up. And then maybe not till, middle of January, whenever Dallas is. But all in all, I think it was a pretty diverse top 32. Some of these decks I haven't heard of before. But yeah, it'll be interesting to figure out. So do you have any other thoughts on expanded, Ryan, or the Fort Wayne regional that just went down?
I mean, it's pretty cool. It was pretty cool, diverse deck scene, especially the Garbodor. That was pretty cool, like seeing Garbodor top. Garbodor and friends. I had a friend, Isaiah Williams. He was actually playing one of the deck, except he was playing it interestingly. He played it with Wobbuffet. Oh, nice. So it was pretty cool. Like his strategy was to Necrozma and then smack with Wobbuffet. It was pretty cool. Yeah. And they played the old tool drop Trubbish.
Right.
So that was that Trubbish used to be really good.
Yeah, I was
still is if it did well.
Yeah, no, and we were looking at the stream. It's like, what is that card? Like, we have to ask the chat which card is being played right now.
Yeah, Tool Drop Trubbish used to be really good. I used to play with Mega Manectric. Yeah, it was just such a good attacker.
Yeah, so we'll have to kind of like talk about these decks in a little more detail later on. Michael, do you have any other thoughts on expanded or anything like that?
Not really. Just know I'm not ready for it still.
Okay.
Besides that, I'm okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty diverse list, like Brian said. There's a lot of Garbodor. There's an Espeon Garb. I mean, hell, there's even a Sylveon deck in top 32. So.
Yeah, one Sylveon deck.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, one Sylveon deck made it.
Yeah. So we're gonna find you something, Michael. You're gonna like it. All right.
Yeah, fair enough.
Michael's gonna just stick to Volcanion.
Right. I gotta keep playing it. It's gonna
always plays Volcanion.
Yeah, that's true.
I actually built a new deck this weekend for this.
Not
Saturday.
Volcanion.
It's not. It has psychic stuff in it, so we'll see how it goes, right?
Just yeah. Well, I mean, I guess we're on the Michael plays Volcanion subject. That's what you played at last Saturday's Cup, right?
Yeah. Okay. I played Volcanion at last Saturday's Cup. So round 1, I donked somebody. So there's no real story to that. Just straight 1 KO, no bench. I was like, okay, this isn't bad for me. And then we played just for fun, and I beat him pretty good.
Well, what did you play though? What deck did you play?
I'm pretty sure. I don't remember what he played. It just skipped it. I just remember because I don't remember really much about that first round. I want to say I didn't take notes because I just got kind of mollywopped the whole time. So
you wanted to keep it out of your headspace.
I didn't mess with it. So I won the first one, and then the second game I played was Garbodor Drampa, and that didn't go well. I had my first starting hand was 2 tools, the Sycamore, 2 energy, and another Sycamore. So I attached my tools, Sycamored, and I got like another pair of tools and some Pokemon, and he field lowered, and I had put 5 items in the deck in the discard like by turn 2, and it was Garbodor was just able to beat me out of any sort of position that I was going to be able to get. So
yeah.
The third round, I played Gardevoir.
One shot.
I actually didn't ever get one shot. It was a pretty wild game. They had trouble drawing their DCE and their energy, so I had gotten it down to the last prize, but they set up 2 Gardevoir, and then it's kind of the end of the day, end of the game. But yeah, they had trouble drawing energy. They weren't ever attaching. I got off a bunch of shell traps, so everything sort of had damage on it. Everything was sort of in a position to get bodied by even a little Volcanion, but I was 1 energy away. My Staryu was my last prize, so I wasn't able to set up any energy recovery at all. And I guess there were turns. I had way too many free turns where she made no board progress. I played Deandra. She ended up getting top 8 with Calvin.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, so I lost to her, and then the next round I played Bulu Vikavolt, and I lost to that because they set up 2.
Was that Xavier or was that another
It was
player?
another Vikavolt Bulu player.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they set up their 2 Vikavolts, and there was no way I could keep up with that. And again, I prized my Staryu, and I was like, okay, well, this is just a rough go of it. And then, yeah, that's pretty much for the most part. By that point, I was already like 2-3, and I was like, I'm out. Yeah. I'm just done. So I kind of like checked out, and I just played matches to see.
Like, whatever, Volcanion.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't do nothing for me.
That's why I'm building a new deck. It was sort of rough, and I saw some list this weekend that came out with like Ho-Ho Slazzle, just making sure that you have more Ho-Hos and try to get like cheap knockouts.
Don't tell people what you're gonna play.
I'm not gonna play it. I don't know. I'm not gonna play it. I'm not gonna play it. I have it.
Thinking about
it. Play it. But also,
knowing him, he's like, I have this deck built. I'm gonna end up playing Ho.
Yeah, exactly. I built something. I built the secret sauce, but I also might have Ho-Ho Slazzle. So
okay,
we'll see. But yeah,
that's
playing Gardevoir with Volcanion splashed in.
That'd be
we can do that.
Turtonator.
Yeah. So okay. Well, I mean, you know, we can talk about kind of like the lessons to take from the cup toward the end. But one of the things that I was waiting to ask Brian about until we got started for a little bit, see if we got a bit more viewers, was your kind of background in Pokemon and how long you've been playing it before we talk about your run through the cup. If you could kind of just give a rundown of that, that'd be great.
Yeah, I started playing in 2014. It was about the summer of 2014. I got into it because I worked at the Y. So, like, all the kids used to play there. So I was like, oh, well, I'll start playing this game too. So then, like, you know, eventually I found out there's these things called leagues. And, you know, I started going and then took off from there. I haven't stopped playing. Technically, 2015-16 was the first time I tried to aim for the World's Invite. Okay. Sadly, I shorted out. I was at 260.
Damn.
This is why I like my story of Rayquaza. I'll never play it again.
All right.
I was like, all right, I'm gonna play Rayquaza at Nationals. Try to get my invite. I believe I just needed a top 128, and the meta, like a lot of things that were big decks were like, it was, I believe, Water Box, which was Seismitoad and Manaphy and stuff like that. Turbo Darkrai with Giratina and stuff like that. So I'm like, cool, Rayquaza has a decent matchup against all this. And then it's like, now I run into all these random Trevenant decks that are playing like Crushing Hammers and Team Flare tools and stuff like that. So it was bad. And like, that's why like people never like some friends never let me hear the end of it. Every time I play Rayquaza, they're like, you don't remember what happened to you? You don't remember what happened to you now?
That's rough.
So, I mean, yeah, I finished with 260. A lot of my points at that time were like topping 8 my states, Oklahoma and Louisiana with Night March. So.
Okay. And what about last year? How did were you? So I'm not sure. Last year, like you were. I don't know if you were in it like 100% for the World's Invite.
Last year, this past season, I wasn't, just because like I couldn't take off as much time for work as I wanted to. So I would just show up like at every random tournament that was around or stuff like that, or if I had the time, I would go to it. But I didn't bother to try for the World's Invite last year. So I mean, I finished the season with a decent amount of points, but it wasn't like aiming for the invite as much.
Yeah. I think so the position you were in when you first tried, this is me and Michael's, but it's like a first full season. We're gonna give it a decent shake. If I seem like, and you might have been doing this for a while, but I forget the kid's name, but I think you kind of like maybe are his mentor or mentoring him.
I think it's more than one person too.
I think y'all showed up like to events with the same decks before. I just can't remember his name. Yeah.
So his name is Kevin. All right.
Okay.
So he started, I believe, in March. He picked up the game and he wanted to learn. So like he came to my league, and that's when I first met him. The first time I met him, he was just like, "Oh, I don't play cards. I just want all these powerful cards."
Sure.
So he found out exactly. I want this Whale Lord and stuff like that. But when he picked up the game, like surprisingly, like I was shocked by like how smart this kid is. That like he understands the game really well. So I showed him like how to play and all this kind of stuff, and on his own time, he actually goes and does his research, and he like looks up the best decks and all this kind of stuff, and then he like tries to incorporate his play style into stuff like that. So honestly, like I test with this kid. It's his first year at seniors. He already has a second and a first place in the League Cups. So he finished last year's season. I think he was only like he finished with last year's season. I believe it was 350 for juniors. I believe he finished like about 250, 260 with only playing the last quarter of the season.
That's
pretty
good.
Yeah. So he's a good kid. So he always he always listens, and he's always wanting to play. He's just like, I just want to keep getting better and better and better and better. So
yeah, and I think that's really important because like I've gone to a couple of different leagues, and like I see kids sometimes like playing by themselves in the corner, and then like all the other like masters are obviously just screwing around and stuff like that. But yeah, I feel like you got to do. If you're a master and you get the time for it, you gotta kind of take the time to do what you're doing, because like that's what I mean. Like they're the kids there, and you gotta help them learn it. It's kind of their game, and it's just you can't just I don't know. I get a weird vibe sometimes when I go to leagues, and it's just like one table of little kids, and no one is interacting with them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, at league where we have it, we have a lot of kids, and they're always looking to play, but. It's like I tell the parents, and we talk about it, and it's like, we can only help your kids as much as you're going to put in the time with them too.
Yeah, that's true.
So, if they don't want to buy them cards, it's like, okay, there's not much you can really do for them. So it's
right.
So a lot of the times they're just, they just play for fun and stuff like that. Yeah. Now, want to like Kevin, his parents were all in, and they're all like, you know what, our kid is good at this, and he's just going to, we're going to take him to all these things. So that was pretty cool about it. So.
Yeah, and his mom's really nice, and I've talked to her too because she saw me wearing like a Michigan State shirt once. And I think she or her family are like from Detroit or they're from Michigan or something like that, and or they live there or something. I don't know, something. She had some kind of connection to Michigan. And so we talk to each other now too. So anyway,
she's really good people.
That's good. And Matt Richards also is a good kind of like parent who plays. And
Matt Richards is one of the guys I play with a lot. My friend Mark, he's also one of the people he's mostly my test partner.
Okay.
So he was the one who topped 8 this past League Cup with me. We were probably the only 2 playing Garbodor.
Okay, yeah. So, which we're going to talk about a little bit. And speaking of which, one of the questions too before we talk about like your play in the Cup and how the run went was like, is there really metagaming for a Cup? Because videos come out and podcasts come out before regionals, but like I've never if I go, this has happened to me before. Michael, tell me what you think. But like I have gone to like an Austin Cup like right after, let's say, a regional, like right after Drampazor Arc won, like Mexico City or something like that. I went to a Cup and I was like, okay, everyone's going to be playing that deck. How do we counter against that deck? And then I build a deck kind of on that premise. I show up and nobody's playing the deck that just won a huge regional. So like, is there really metagaming for cups, or is it more of like, hey, you have to play with what you're comfortable playing because it's a best of one, and you can't really think about the rest of the field?
I mean, personally, like Houston, you can't, like, for me at least, it's like I don't know what people play, man. Like
Right.
honestly, like I think for League Cups or stuff like that, you just play something you're just gonna consistently do well with. Like I think you should play what you're comfortable with, and just hope Tom doesn't screw you.
Yeah.
So like me, I was comfortable with playing some decks and everything, and I would always run into like my worst matchup, like my winning in or stuff like that. It's like, oh, here, have Vespa Queen. You're playing Mega Ray, play against Vespa Queen, Zoroark. It's like cool. So honestly, like I don't know if you can metagame League Cups just because anybody will play anything. Like this past one was pretty diverse and all the decks that were being played. I mean, Greninja topped, but
that's true. Yeah. So then, just tell us a little bit about your early rounds and kind of the deck choice. And I'm not gonna ask you to post a photo of your list or anything, but I have seen some different versions out there that I might ask you about. Tell us what the first couple of rounds were like.
All right, so I was originally gonna go play Metagross. I was literally like, I tested so many games with Metagross. It's ridiculous how many games I play with Metagross. I really enjoy playing Metagross. I think Metagross is a really good deck. But the night of, I was testing with my friend Mark, and I'm like, this is good. Like I might play this. So the next morning, I wake up and I'm like, oh man, I don't think I want to play Metagross. I'm like, it's a stage 2, and anything can happen with the stage 2 deck. It can just brick or something like that. So that morning, I'm just like, what do I want to play? Like, what's good? And I'm like, oh wait, a lot of people are not expecting Garbodor as much anymore because, they're like, people are playing mostly heavy supporters now compared to it used to be heavy items and stuff like that.
Right.
I mean, Volcanion, they don't really play as many max elixirs anymore with Starmie and everything like that. So I was like, that morning of, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to play Drampa Po-Town with, I teched in Jirachi.
Yeah.
The Stardust Jirachi, just because I hate Gardevoir.
Yeah.
I hate that deck. I hate playing the deck. I don't like playing the deck. So I originally tested Gardevoir, and I'm like, I don't like this. So I went to a League Cup maybe 2 weeks before that, and I was playing Drampa Po-Town. Anyway, it didn't go well. So anyway,
was it one in Dallas or somewhere else?
It was the one in it was the one in Tyler, Texas.
Fort Worth. Yeah.
Yeah, so it started good and then it just went downhill quick. But with this one, I ended up playing just consistency. I was like, I'm just gonna play Drampa Garb. There's gonna be a lot. I was expecting already a lot of I was expecting a lot of Gardevoir. I was expecting Metagross, since these are big decks that people think, it's gonna be good. So I was like, what beats all this? And I was expecting Volcanions and all that, which is why I didn't want to play Metagross.
Yeah.
So I ended up playing Drampa Garb. So that's how I came to the decision that I wanted to play Drampa Garb, just because I didn't want to, lose to all this other stuff. So anyway, my round 1, I play against Matt Richards. So Matt's playing Vikavolt Bulu, and I'm like, oh gosh, I feel like it's a 50-50 matchup. I think if Bulu can set off fast and it's just consistently charging with energies and everything, I think Bulu can just win that matchup. So Matt takes the first early 4 prizes on me. I had a Garbodor setup, and the thing that changed the game for me was when he took his next 2 prizes, when he went down to 2 prize cards, he Lysandered up he Guzma'd up a Drampa that didn't have energies instead of going after the Garbotox and Garbodor. So he Guzma'd up the Drampa, took the early prizes, and I end him. I end him to 2, and then from there it was just him dead drawing after that, and I was able to just clear off his board after that. So I got lucky on that one.
Yeah, let me ask you a little bit more about that deck. And Michael, have you tested Tepa Bulu at all?
Tapu
Or
Bulu,
no?
I've gone to Strike Zone a few times, and a lot of the people there play
Uh,
it. So, listen, our friend Xavier really
yeah,
likes to play it. So I played against it a lot. It seems like a pretty simple, straightforward deck. If you can get your 2 strong charges up, I don't really think there's any. You should ever run into any issues with hitting the right numbers. So,
yeah,
and the
yeah,
fact that GX heals or whatever attack that it needs to do heals itself is also really good.
yeah. And Brian, I was going to ask you because you played this deck, and so did shit. I already forgot his name. The kid that you mentor.
Yeah.
I think y'all both took it to a cup right before Nats in the summer. Do you feel like in the new format it's better, or it gets worse, or it gets about the same place in the meta?
I still personally like Bulu. I took it to a cup and I got top 4 in the cup.
Yeah.
I ended up losing to William Herman. It was a really close game, but yeah, Kevin took it and he won the cup with it. So
Sweet.
you know we just been playing Bulu, and Bulu is a good deck. I think it honestly gets strong right now just because of Guzma.
Yeah.
I think Guzma, like at some points, you know, in the games, in late games at least, you were able to Lysander up something and, you know, stall for turns with like Lysandering a Vikavolt or situations like that. But I think like now it's harder to stall against Vikabulu just because now you have Guzmas and stuff like that.
Cool. What did you play next?
I honestly think like the deck got started. Honestly, like even that morning of, I was contemplating on playing Vikabulu.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I still to this day like I really enjoy that deck, but you know I wanted to play something that I could play the field with, and Garbodor was probably the best thing for me.
Yeah, true. What was your round 2?
My round 2, I played against Ninetales.
Okay. Yeah, I actually like had not seen any Ninetales really like on YouTube or on Facebook, and then like a couple of people were playing Ninetales. I think one guy had one with a Glaceon, and then another one had a pretty standard list. But yeah, what was that like?
So that one was interesting. Like the round 2, at least, it was one of my friends. His name was Rodney. He used to play Pokemon, and then he ended up stopping to play, and he went to play other card games. And then it was cool seeing him again. But it was really interesting because he would start picking off like my Trubbishes early. So he would set up at the beginning. He set up the other Ninetales, the one with the ability.
Yeah.
So if you can't hit it with the GX or anything, you have to kill it with something smaller. So he also played smart by, you know, saving his resources and all that. So it was pretty hard to, like, you know, get around it and all that. But eventually I ended up setting up a Garbodor and just knocking out the small Ninetales. Yeah. And then I just had to deal with the GX. It was a close game, though. We both were down to 1 prize card. But in the end, like, I ended up hitting a field blower that mattered, and then just trash the Lancing for 240 or something like that.
Oh yeah.
That's it was pretty cool. So it was pretty good.
The baby Ninetales, do you know how many of those that dude ran?
I believe he ran 2, but I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it was 2. It was 2 from what I saw. I ended up playing another one in top 4, so I'll explain that one as we go.
Okay, cool.
So that was my round 2, close game. I ended up taking it by, you know, hitting a field blower at the right time.
Gotcha.
Round 3 was against my friend Jeremy Castro. He was playing my Metagross list.
Okay.
You know,
so that is your list, right?
He played my Metagross list that I sent him because he was like, "What do I play, man? I haven't had time to test." I'm like, "Just play this Metagross list." So we played an Espeon in it. So it was good for the mirror matches because you would just Necrozma GX and then Espeon the next turn. So I saw him do it in one of the games.
Yeah,
but
I think he did it his first game for sure.
Yeah, he did it with like, I forgot his name. I don't know if it's like Harry or
it's Harry. Yeah.
So he ended up doing the Necrozma GX and then the next turn just devolving everything. Oh, no. So yeah, I told him, I'm like, hey, just trust me on this. And so he played and he did.
Does it have 2 Necrozmas or just?
Yeah, I still play the 2 Necrozma.
Okay.
I think that card is just really good in general.
So
I love that card.
Yeah. Did you face a Necrozma, Michael?
No, I didn't. But I've tested against the Trevenant Necrozma for expanded, and I'm like, this is just ridiculous.
Yeah,
Okay.
Necrozma is just a good card, I believe.
Yeah, I had a list, a Metagross list built. I think like somebody on Burbank or Fonte had posted a list, and I kind of looked at it. I made like one or two changes, and the one I ended up playing only had one Necrozma in it. But like for me, I had tested Metagross briefly before Nats, and yeah, for me like I wanted to start with Necrozma. For the Espeon, but like I couldn't really make that happen. And then like maybe the way I put it together was a little clunky, so I ended up like you said earlier, like it's stage 2 deck. It's gonna have stage 2 deck problems. Yeah. And the sense I get with Metagross, at least after this weekend, is that maybe you treat it the same way the Vikavolt and Bulu, like that engine is set up. Like
yeah.
I don't know. I think I went into the event kind of thinking about it wrong, and that's kind of like, yeah, Black Ray GX and then Espeon is so good, as opposed to having like Metagross be the main attacker in the deck, which is what I was going for, which is what I think you're not really supposed to do with the deck.
Yeah, like whenever the way I built my list, I made it like a 50-50.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Like, yes, Metagross is still my main attacker, but like I put enough to where like Necrozma can also see play.
Yeah.
Because what I like about Necrozma is like it can hit those numbers against like a Fighting Fury Tapu Bulu, which Metagross is like, okay, now I can't one-shot them unless I have the Field Blower. Right. But if you can go 3 Psychic Energies and a Choice Band, you one-shot Bulus.
Yeah.
And it's also good, like, it's just good against other things that have Choice Bands or stuff like that. I think just Necrozma in general is a really good card. If it can't hit like those big numbers, like Metagross can't hit those big numbers, like the 190s against Ho-Ohs or stuff like that, but Necrozma can actually do that. So.
Yeah. Shit, I had a question about Metagross, but I forgot. Michael, do you have any questions about Metagross with that matchup was like?
No, I mean, I think we hit on it. The biggest problem being like the stage 2 issue, rare candies and stuff like that. It's just, it's good. It's all right.
Yeah.
It's not going to be able to. What do you think about the Guardian matchup for the Brian? How do you think it should?
The Guardian matchup is it's good.
All right.
If you misplay with Metagross, then it's just on you if you lose to Gardevoir.
Honestly, that's what happened to me. That's exactly what happened to me.
Like honestly, Metagross should win that matchup unless Metagross dead draws.
Yeah.
I played it I play tested Metagross against Gardevoir. It's Guardy's strong too, but Metagross, like even in the late game or anything, if you could just set up a Metagross just takes knockouts like nothing.
Yeah. Have you seen how many? Let me ask you this: how many bull picks do you think is optimal in Metagross?
I play 2.
I've seen some lists that stick a Ninetales in there just because you already have 2. Okay. What do you think about that?
Okay, so before Necrozma came out, I was playing it with Ninetales.
Yeah.
But I only played it with the 1-up. But then, like, I found myself, it's like, this card's never one-shotting. It's not one-shotting anything. It doesn't even one-shot Volcanion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not even with a Choice Band. I believe it's 160 with Choice Band. Yeah. So it was, it's a good card, but it's like, it didn't really fit in there pretty well. So Necrozma actually fits in there it fits in there perfectly. In my opinion, at least. Like,
yeah, that's true.
Necrozma's won me so many games, and I don't know. I think Necrozma's just a strong card, and I like it. I think it's splashable in a lot of things. There's a lot of things I want to test it in.
Yeah, the more like different decks I test, the more I'm like, hey, I think I can fit a Necrozma in this in this deck. So anyway, what was
it's like a really good card. So
yeah, it's good. What was round 4 like? I think we're on now.
All right, so yeah, round 4, I go up against, I guess it was Turtonator. Mm-hmm. I mostly saw Turtonator, but I'm pretty sure he was playing like Turtonator, Volcanion, Ho-Oh.
Okay. I might have played that guy actually, but
yeah, I believe he topped also. But
yeah.
So turn 1, he goes Kiawe, 4 energies to Turtonator, and I open Lele, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. So I played 4 Lele's. So I end up I always have Lele in hand. Like, it's just good to have the 4 Lele. So I just turn 1 Lele. I grab Bridget and set up my board, And at this point, I'm like, I'm just gonna attach a double colorless to Tapu Lele, because I drew into 2, so I'm like Tapu Lele, and I hit him for however much damage, a lot of damage with Choice Band as well.
120,
So yeah, so he hits me, he knocks me out with Turtonator, he finds a Volcanion, steams up Turtonator, he knocks out Lele, and then from there I end him. So I end him into nothing after attaching a DC to a bench Tapu Lele, bring up my own Tapu Lele, and take the knockout.
Damn.
So at this point, he promotes his own Tapu Lele, I believe, because he turned 1 Kiawe onto the Turtonator.
Yeah.
So he promotes his own Tapu Lele, and he's playing a bunch of items. He's just, like now hitting all his max elixirs. He's doing all these items, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. Yeah, he's like trying to come back because, like, okay, I think Tapu Lele is good, or not Tapu Lele. Kiawe is good, turn 1 and all that, but I feel like once that thing goes down and you don't have a comeback from that, it's kind of hard to come back from a losing 4 energies or however many energies. But so he's going in with his items and he's playing everything, and I have by this turn he cannot switch out of the active. From what I remember, he can't switch out of the active. So I just, by this turn, I get Garbodor, have Garbotoxin, and I start hitting him with Garbodor.
Trash Lance.
Yeah, so I'm just trash-lanching him for, like, picking off damage and stuff. So I'm trying to play that game where now it's like I have only Garbodors. So I'm not going to promote another Drampa or anything unless I have to. Exactly. So after, knocking out whatever, he does his Ultra Ball and tries to go for a Lele and benches the Tapu Lele. And I tell him I have Garbodor. So he's like, all right. He scoops up and he's like, you win. So after that misplay, he was like, okay, you win. So I was like, oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Round 5, I go up again. I offered the ID in round 5. It was to Calvin. I offered him the ID because 402s will guarantee you top cut. But he wasn't sure about it, so he didn't want an ID. So he's playing Greninja, and I'm playing Garb. So it's like, okay. So I end up, he goes first. I believe he goes first. He does turn 1 Bridget, gets all his stuff. So whenever he did that whole Ultra Ball with turn 1 Bridget, he left himself with no supporter. So I go my turn 1 Bridget, attach energy to Drampa, which is my active, and pass. And then from there, he rare candies, I believe, into a Greninja. And all he has in his hand is 1 water energy. So what he does is he Moonlight Slashes. And, from there, I just hit him for 80 again with my Drampa. And then he doesn't get another draw supporter. So he hits me for 80 again. And I just knock him out with Drampa for 80. So then he promotes whatever's next, a Froakie, and he misses Bubble. So sweet. I just Drampa 80 him. He does it again, misses Bubble, Drampa for 80 again.
Damn. That's
so like at this point I was like, okay, he didn't instead of like Ultra Balling for a supporter, for a draw supporter, he went for the turn 1 Bridget, which I understand, like, you want to set up as fast as possible. But then it's like you leave yourself to a top deck. But yeah, that's how that one happened. Then my round 6, it was an ID. I ID'd to Andrew Pena, who was playing Ninetales. So yeah, we ID'd. So at this time I was 501. So I go in first seed.
Has Andrew been around for a while? I've seen him here and there, but I don't see him like all the time.
Yeah, Andrew. I believe he started when Ancient Origins came out.
Okay.
He used to be obsessed with Sceptile, so that was one of the decks he used to play. But yeah, he started about Ancient Origins. I know he has a top 32 regionals finish at St. Louis.
Oh, sweet.
So yeah, I ID with Andrew, and by this time we're all in top cut. So top 8, I believe. What were the top 8 decks? So I was playing Drampa Garb. My friend Mark was in top 8 with Drampa Garb.
Bulu,
Andrew Pena was with Ninetales. Xavier was with Tapu Bulu. Then you have, I believe his name was Juan, who was with the Gardevoir. Calvin with Greninja, and Kenitra with Gardevoir, I believe. And I don't remember his name, but it was the guy that I played that was playing Volcanion.
Okay.
So it was a pretty diverse top 8. I'm surprised Metagross didn't make it. I was thinking at least one Metagross was going to make it, but no Metagross made it.
Yeah.
So top 8, I play against Xavier. He was playing Bulu. Round 1 happens how it went. So he gets the early prizes. I get Garbotoxin, and I late game and him to 2 prizes. Surprisingly, I found out he was playing 3 field blowers, like the whole time I was playing him, because I would get a Garbotoxin online and I would see a field blower. I'm like, okay, the max Tapu Bulu I've ever seen, it plays 2. So I Garbotoxin again. He hits field blower, and I'm like, what the heck? Gosh. So he would, either that or he would Skyla into it and just do what he does. But anyway, late game end, and he just dead drew from there, and I took over from there. Game 2. We go into game 2, and I do my first Ultra Ball search because I was going to get Tapu Lele for Bridget, and I find out Garbotoxin's prized. So at this point, Xavier just runs me over. He constantly hitting the Vikavolt, and I'm just like, okay, I can't stop this. So, I mean, I just conceded the game because he had 2 Tapu Bulus charged up. So I was like, if I knock this one out, I just lose regardless. Yeah. So I scoop up and we go to game 3. Game 3, I get he burns an early field blower because I attach a choice band to a Garb or a Drampa, hoping he would field blower it off.
Field blower, yeah.
He does it, and Sycamores, so he was gonna field blower anyway. Yeah. So I had Flowstones in hand, but I was just gonna hold on to him. So anyway, he cannot set up a Vikavolt, so he didn't get a Vikavolt, I believe, until like turn 3 or 4. But by that time, I was just, I would hit a Guzma and take out the little Grubbins and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that happened, and I had Garbotoxin on, and Xavier Ultra Balled for a Lele and benched the Lele. So, he couldn't get a supporter, and from there it was just, I just took over from there, and that was that game.
Yeah, let me ask you real quick about the whole the Garbodor Trubbish line. I've seen a lot of lists kind of move from a 3-1, 3 Trash Lands, 1 Garbotoxin to a 2-2. I mean, if you play that going forward, I mean, it seems like the smarter move, but I don't know. What do you think about that kind of
honestly,
that line?
If it was up to me, I'd probably move down to a 2-2. But then again, I think about it, and knowing my luck, I'm probably gonna prize all the bad, all the trash lanches that I need.
Yeah,
and,
that's true.
Late game, I'm not gonna have anything. So I find myself doing that. I test Galissapod with Garb.
Yeah.
And I was seeing the 2-2 line, and I'm like I would find myself late game wanting a trash lanch, but it's like, oh, I don't have one. Instead, I have this Garb. So I don't know. I think 1 is solid, but I could see 2.
Right. Yeah, it reminds me of Mega Mewtwo, because it would always when I played Mega Mewtwo, I could never fucking get the Trash Land because it was only 2-1 at that point. It was 2 Trubbish, 1 Garbotoxin.
Yeah.
But then I was playing last night with the 2-2, a little bit once or twice online, and I had 2 Garbotoxins set up and no Trash Lands, Trash Lands going. So yeah, that's an interesting thing. I don't know. This Saturday, if I play something Garb, I want to play it 2-2, but I don't know if I will. So
yeah, I played it kind of like a straightforward Drampa Garb list. 3-1 Garb, just because I didn't test the 2 Garbs out yet. I knew I wanted to try the 2, but at this point I was I'm just gonna try this, and if it does well, then we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So after that, I realized, wow, there's a lot of there's a lot of ability reliant decks Gardevoir and stuff like that, and shutting down those abilities is pretty important.
Yeah, it seems like you're either playing something with Garbotoxin or you're playing your 2 or 3 field blowers because you don't.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway.
But then again, I find myself if they can field blower off the float stones and stall you, kind of thing. It's this Garbodor can't attack, but this Garbodor can attack. So it's I don't mind if you Lysandra or Guzma up this Garbodor, so I just attach energy and do damage.
Did you ever, before we move on to the next round, did you ever find yourself attaching desperation choice bands to Garbotoxin during the tournament, or you just it's 4 flow stones normally can kind of get the job job done.
4 floatzel's get the job done. Like, okay. I never find myself like, so I played 4 Tapu Lele for consistency. So I would always like, if I didn't want a Sycamore a turn, you know, I would be like, okay, I'm just gonna Tapu Lele, find the end, and keep all my items.
Yeah.
So it was stuff like that, so I didn't have to just drop the tools or the tools and wherever I just wanted to put them just because I was wanting the Sycamore. Instead, I would just drop a Tapu Lele and then play an end.
Right. Okay.
Either that or like, you know, I would have knockouts with Kukui because I played Kukui.
Okay.
So I'll explain that one whenever we move forward, how that won me some games. But Kukui, then so that was Xavier's match. You know, I just late game end him with a Garbotoxin online, and it was from there. It was just, you know, you just tramp on win.
Right.
So next game was against Andrew Pena. He was playing Ninetales. He was playing 2 of the, what do you call it? 2 of the ability ones.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know what the ability's
Barrier.
called. Luminous Barrier. Yeah. So he was playing 2 of those, and you know, he was really consistent with his items, and it was so annoying. But he would start attaching his DCEs. And I'm like, all right, dude, like I have to slow you down while I set up my stuff on the bench because it was taking me forever to set up game 1 on the bench. So I'm like, all right, you know what? You want to attach DCEs? I Ultra Ball, then I bench the Jirachi, and I just Stardust.
Nice. There you go.
So the thing is, like, Jirachi hits for weakness too.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I would hit.
Ice.
So I would hit him for that, and he's just like stuck in the active with like the Ninetales, and he's like, oh dang it. So like. Now he has to retreat into another one that's like maybe not ready or anything, and then you just Drampaw and knock it out. Because with Potown, they would just evolve, and it sets up the one you just need to hit with the Choice Band for the 210 because 180. So I would just set up the Drampaws for the bigger Ninetales. But anytime like I would just see a DC, I would either try to Guzma up the Ninetales with the DC and just hit it with Jirachi and hope that he doesn't have Guzmas. But Jirachi was the real MVP in that game, like just in the whole thing with Ninetales.
It's pretty sweet.
What I love about the Jirachi is like it forces early Guzmas on things that play special energies. So then late game you don't have Guzmas, kind of thing. So it's like it forces you to get around the Jirachi, and if you don't take out the Jirachi, then it's kind of like Jirachi's just gonna be there. So
that's a pretty interesting tech, dude. That's
like I thought about it because I'm like the day I was gonna play it, the night of, I was talking to my friend Mark, and I'm like, why isn't nobody playing Jirachi? I'm like, you know, there's Gardevoir and there's stuff like this. Why isn't anybody play Jirachi?
Yeah, that's smart.
So it literally saved me against Ninetales. So yeah, game 1 was really close. I think he was down to 1 prize card, but you know, I ended up hitting what I needed, just because of the 4 Tapu Leles.
Right.
Like the 4 Tapu Leles are really good.
Okay. Yeah. Let me ask you a little bit about that. So like, I feel like the first deck that kind of came out there with 4 Tapu Leles was the deck that won Nats, was Tord's deck. And like, I get, so like back then it's like, okay, there's Versus Seekers, so you have that, and 4 Tapu Leles, that's like super consistent. But like in decks now where you don't have Versus Seekers and instead you're putting in more supporters than you normally would, like when I play 4 Leles, I end up with hands with 3 or 4 Leles. Do you think like in decks now that are so supporter heavy, you still need 4 Leles? Is it kind of like a safety kind of feeling for you personally? Or, I mean, what do you think in terms of like the Lele line versus the supporter line?
Yeah, like I honestly think the heavy Lele is pretty good, but I think it just depends on what decks you play. That's just like a personal preference. Like I like the 4 Lele. I tried originally the Drampaw list with 2 Leles. 2, then I bumped it up to 3, and then like, you know, I still find myself like wanting more.
Right.
So honestly, having the 4 Leles saved me in a lot of games, just because like if I needed an Ultra Ball one, I could just Ultra Ball a Lele away and know that I have like 2 more in there for late game. So, and it would be good because at some points, whenever my opponents would Field Blower off the float stones off my Garbodor, I'm just like, oh hey, now I can bench this Lele that's just been chilling in my hands.
Yeah.
And then I just find whatever I need.
That's true.
That happened with Andrew Pena. I believe in game 2 and one of them, it was an important Tapu Lele. He'd feel blowered off, and I would just Lele for whatever I needed. And just having the Leles it's always like really good for me. Like I just loved it. Like I wouldn't change the 4 Lele count.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll have to. I think I'll stick with like 3.
Yeah.
But that makes sense. I think my biggest problem going into this new format, aside from like having to learn how to deal with or use stage 2 decks, is like I want to play N more often than I want a Sycamore. Like I'm a little scared. I'm scared of Sycamore because it's just like shit. Like I'm throwing all this stuff away. But like that's just something I don't know. You gotta kind of make the call.
I mean, honestly, like whenever I first started playing Pokemon, we didn't have VS Seekers.
Yeah.
So like I played in a format like that before.
True.
But eventually, Phantom Forces came out and brought the VS Seekers. So I think this format, I like it a lot, just because you can't just be like, oh, VS Seeker, I win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so now it's managing resources, which I really enjoy about the game now.
Right.
So now you don't just have to get lucky and like, hey, I'm just gonna use this.
Right.
Also, another thing that I did against Andrew Pena in round 2. So, okay, I never found myself big wheeling that much. I never used big wheel GX that much. The whole time I played, I never used big wheel that much. Against Andrew Pena, I ended up. He put my Drampa to, I believe it was 150, so it was just one snipe away with his Ninetales to win. So I'm like, oh no, this is not happening. So I promote Tapu Lele and I just Tapu Cure.
Nice.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
So now he's like in the middle of the game. He's just like, oh yeah, that's a thing. So he's like, that's a thing. So after that Tapu Cure, like that's just where it took off from there. I ended up just winning because of the Tapu Cure. That was in game 2 also, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I've seen some Drampa Garbless with that one supporter. I think it's Hala or something like that. Where
I didn't play it.
Okay.
So I don't like it. Like personally, just because I never found myself wanting a big wheel.
Sure.
I would I just never find myself wanting a big wheel, just because, like I said, I have 4 Lele and I can find what I need.
Yeah.
Right.
So I never found myself whiffing like a choice band, or I never found myself whiffing a float stone, just because I would just Sycamore and just find exactly what I need.
Yeah, damn man, you're really turning me on to this 4 Lele thing. I don't want to do it, but it makes so much sense.
It was just good. Like 3. I think 3 is pretty good in some decks. Like I think Vika Bulu is pretty good with 3 Tapu Leles. Because you can find Skyla and stuff like that, but yeah, like I never found myself big wheeling, so I'm like, I don't want this Hala, because I've heard about Hala being in the deck because you could just big wheel, but I'm like, I don't like Hala.
Right.
So I was like, nah, I don't want to play this. So instead, I'm just gonna play consistent. So I'm just gonna play 4 Tapu Lele, and I'm just gonna throw in this Jirachi because Jirachi's pretty clutch and it saved me in this game. So yeah, that was that. And then I end up in the finals against Gardevoir.
You didn't play Gardevoir the whole into this.
No, surprisingly, I avoided Gardevoir until the finals. So I end up playing Gardevoir. He wins the coin flip, I believe, so he goes first. He just pops off from the beginning, just turn 1 bridge in and just has everything. And I'm like, oh gosh. So like I open my Tapu Lele, I have my stuff, and then I find out I priced 2 Potowns.
Damn.
And I'm like, that card is really important against Tapu Lele.
Is that 2 or 3 or 2 or 4?
Sorry. I played 3.
Okay,
I played 3 Potowns. Yeah, because I played Rainbows. So
okay.
I know some listening Drampa Garb either play Rainbows or Potowns.
Right, I was going to ask you about both. That.
Yeah, okay, so I played both just for the consistency that I want to do the Drampa attack. Like, I don't want to either rely on just evolving or, like, finding a Rainbow to put it on the bench. Okay. So I played both just because I want to have that damage. And I don't want to just, like, depend on either on one way of having that damage on the bench.
Yeah.
So, so he pops off, does everything, and I price 2 Potowns. And, like, he just goes off, and he's just getting all these energies, and I could not find my Garbotox and Garbodor either to slow him down from constantly attaching energies or artillery. So, at some points, like, Jirachi set up the knockouts, because I ended up bringing out Jirachi, and Jirachi just using Stardust. Mm-hmm. So, it would stall for turns. Jirachi would stall for turns, and he ended up using his GX attack. So whenever I searched his discard pile, I saw that he had like all his 3 Guzmas. He had 3 Guzmas in the discard. He had, I believe, 3 Ends and 2 Sycamores.
Oh shit.
So when he does his GX attack, I'm thinking, wow, he's just gonna get all of this stuff back. Instead, he takes in all his items because I was hitting him with Trash Avalanche for, I believe, like 160 before Choice Band. So instead of like shuffling Guzmas and stuff, he shuffled all his items. And I'm like, oh, good, he didn't take anything. Like all his Guzmas are still in here. So I'm still hitting him with Jirachi. It's like he would attach and I just Stardust. But then, Jirachi gave out eventually because he realized, oh, I don't need to attach this turn for the DCE. So he ended up just knocking out whatever and just winning. But that's because I couldn't find Potowns either.
Right.
Game 2, I ended up finding everything. Potowns. Every time I had Potown, he would evolve. And since he was using, what was he using? He was using the Vulpix. So he would always just beacon and find what he needs, and he would evolve him under Potown just because he couldn't find the Field Blower. Mm-hmm. So in his very first turn, he blew off a Field Blower. So I was like, okay, Potown and whatever else. So he would just evolve, and he would evolve into Potown. So it would set up the damage for the Drampa.
Yeah.
So that's where Kukui came in clutch because I played 2, just for the fact that if he evolves at least once into Potown, that's already putting him down to the numbers that I need, because then I would just Choice Band. Then, like I said, the 4 Tapu Leles, I would just bench Tapu Lele, get the Professor Kukui, and hit him for the 180. Or for the 200.
Yeah, 200 at that point.
So that would set up the knockouts for Gardevoir. That's the main reason I played the Kukuis, was for that, and just things where I needed it. Kukui came in handy too with using Trash Avalanche.
Okay.
Yeah.
So sometimes you needed that 20 damage boost with Choice Band, so you would just play Professor Kukui. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so game 2 happened like that. He just, I believe he overextended too much. And, he threw away a lot of resources. And by that time, by the time he had to use his GX, it was already I was already down to 2 prize cards. So it was just that. Time was called after we were done with game 2 and I was cleaning up my cards. So then time is called and we're like,
sudden death.
Oh, sudden death.
Yeah.
So since time was called, and we decided who was going to go first, he was technically turn 1. I was turn 2 and he was turn 3. So we set up like normal, and he opens. He was playing Gardevoir with Weavile, the one that does 60 to everything with abilities. So I was like, okay, that's fine. So he opens. Whenever I saw him open Sneasel or whatever, I'm like, okay, good. You're not opening with something I don't want to see. So he opens that, and he cannot set up. He's slowly setting up. Well, I had the turn 1 Bridget.
Okay.
So at that point, I'm like, okay, I'm fine. So by the end of my turn, I had attached an energy and passed. So now we're in turn 2, 1, 2. And then he does his thing. He Lele's for a Bridget, but at this point, he just wants to set up a Tapu Lele, or he wants to set up a Weavile or something. Mm-hmm. And instead of playing the Bridget, he just Ultra Balls it away and finds something else. So I'm like, okay, cool. I believe he ends up hitting a Weavile and evolves, and he ends up hitting me with the Rule of Evil. So he puts, this was the next turn. So he just does whatever he does. He benches on a Remoraid, and he has another Lele on the bench. So then my turn 3, I just Drampa and I just use Big Wheel GX. So I'm like, okay, I need cards. I just need to get this knockout. I need to evolve. I just need to evolve one Garbodor and just 180 him.
Yeah.
So at this point, I'm like, I'm probably gonna get End.
Right.
Anyway, so he goes Ultra Ball Tapu Lele. He gets his Tapu Lele, and he reveals the End. And I'm like, oh no! So he's gonna end my whole hand away, right? So and he shows it to me, and then he's all like, actually, can I take that back? So the judge is all like, yeah, go ahead, take it back, because he didn't start shuffling or anything.
Right.
So he's like, can I take it? Can I change something else? He's like, yeah, you can change it. So instead he goes for Guzma, and I'm like, okay. So he Guzmas up my top, or he.
How many flow stones do you have in your hand after the Big Wheel?
Okay, so after my big wheel, I had 3 float stones.
Okay,
I had
sweet.
2 choice bands. 2 DCEs. I had the Potown and everything. So I didn't have an Ultra Ball though. So
Yeah.
I couldn't, but I had the Lele's, so I could not Ultra Ball. So he hits the Guzma, and he Guzmas up my Trubbish, and he hits me with the Weavile and puts 60 on my Lele, and I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm like Tapu Lele, and then I end up getting Guzma, and I Guzma up his Lele, and I attach the DCE with the choice band on Dramp on just 180 it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's how that happened.
Yeah.
So I mean, if he would have I think we would have been in a whole different game. But
Yeah.
when he went for that Guzma play, I was just like, okay, I got game. But
Yeah, it's kind of like the whole. So if you don't know, I don't know if you know this, Michael, or anybody else watching, but like in sudden death, it's first to 1 prize.
Yeah.
And that's happened to me twice. I think the first time was in a cup, in the finals in a cup in Austin. And actually I was playing Ray. So like you're gonna get a 240 because you only have 1 card in the prize section. But like I don't know in that situation I wouldn't know what I would do in that situation. Like, do you still kind of play it the same, or do you like, hey, I want to like maybe put up Lele and just attach DCE so I can knock something out that's a basic or something? It seems a little. It sounds like you played it a lot better than I would have, because I probably
the way I was just thinking is I need a Drampa. I need to hit Drampa regardless. Like Tapu Lele is not gonna hit another Tapu Lele for knockout.
Right.
So it's like I have to get a knockout with a Drampa. So I think it just depends on whatever situation or whatever deck you're playing against. I remember in my Oklahoma top 8 states, I was playing Night March against Night March. So it was a Night March mirror. Yeah. And we go into sudden death. So he's all like, you can go first. And I'm like, of course you want me to go first. You're just going to Night March me. So, yeah, it was weird. So I turn 1 Hex Maniac to him, and he could not set up, so he didn't get a turn 1 knockout. And I'm like, oh, sweet. So then, like, my next turn, I still don't have anything. So, yeah, I played down a puzzle of time, and I, like, set up my cards to where it's, like, the cards I need to win the next turn. But by then, it was just, I lost anyway. Yeah. But, yeah, sudden death is, like... Yeah, nah, it's pretty cool. But,
so it sounds like you got, at this point, you have 50 points out of 400. Are you making a run for an invite this year, or
this year I'm trying to aim for it, just depending how much, like if I go back to school next semester. But I'm sitting at 65 right now.
Oh, okay. League challenge or something?
League challenge, yeah.
Okay.
So I'm sitting at 65 points right now. So we'll see what happens, honestly. Like, I know a lot of the people were at regionals, but we'll see what happens this time. But
are you going to any regionals in the fall?
From what I know, it's like I know I'll be going. I know the first one I'm probably going to is gonna be Florida.
Okay.
So I'm gonna be driving.
It's expanded, right?
It's expanded, yeah.
Okay.
So cool. That's the one I know I'm for sure probably gonna head to. I also have Memphis in mind. I'm probably gonna go to that, and Dallas. Yeah. And then from there, I know later on, I know I'm gonna go to Wisconsin.
Okay.
So I'm trying to see what else I'm gonna go to. I like Wisconsin a lot. Wisconsin is well ran. It's pretty.
Oh, okay. So,
it's pretty good. They always keep you on time. Like literally, like if you're late to your match, then you're late. That's it. Sorry.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, that's from what I have in plans right now. Like if anything else happens or something else comes up, then we'll just do that. But
okay.
Yep.
Cool. I forgot y'all drove to you're in the same van, right? In Virginia.
Yeah.
I forgot
Michael, Wade, and Steven, and Brad, and Herman, and everybody. So we drove up to Virginia. We got pulled over once, but that always happens when Herman's the driver.
It's falling asleep at the wheel. Don't sleep and drive. It's good.
Well, sweet, man. It sounds like you had a good cup. There's a cup coming
this
up.
Weekend.
Yeah, this weekend. If you want to go, it seems like you have to.
You're not gonna go with the Luis Baez? How did Luis Baez do?
Oh, I'm not gonna even talk about that, dude. It's not relevant at all.
I have to talk about my shitty experience and losing, but you get to just try to slide out here clean. Try to slide away from
that's what you. That's host responsibility right there. That's what you have to do. The viewers have to empathize with you. unless obviously people are watching that got in the top 8.
Fair enough.
But yeah, there's a Cup Saturday. Apparently at Heroes, the sound of things makes it seem like it's gonna be. I don't know why. Maybe it's just there's not a lot going on, but like everyone's making it seem like it's gonna be packed to the brim.
I mean, there's no regionals going on or anything. That's why probably everybody's now coming back from regional. So everyone's going to be like, oh, let's all hit our cups as fast as we can. So, I know some friends that are coming down from Louisiana. My friend Adam and some other people are coming from Louisiana. So,
cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be pretty big, but I don't know. I saw this thing on Burbank where they had like 60-something people and it was 7 rounds. So
that sounds dope. I don't
know.
So
it sounds terrible.
For a 7-round cup.
Swiss rounds, 7-round cups. I mean, 6 was already enough. I was like, I don't want to keep playing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Normally after like round 3, you're like,
you know what happened?
I'm bored already. I'm tired.
At the end of Swiss, went to a family barbecue. Picked up my little cousin and went back to strike zone, and y'all were still playing. And I like walked up and watched a little bit of your last couple matches. Like, I just had food and I feel rejuvenated. He still has to play. That looks rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like it lasts all day, and it's kind of like, man, like does it really have to last all day? But I don't think there's not a better way to do it. I don't think. Yeah. So yeah, there's that Cup of Heroes. Michael, have you seen anything on? Anything else in the Houston group worth going over?
Yeah, so we
talking about real quick?
Brought it up a little bit. We have, I think Stephen Lewis, which is like our local professor that runs a lot of the tournaments. He and Kettler are running a little website that's putting together help for people who might have like lost their Pokemon collection. I think they're calling it like the Hey Trainer Foundation Facebook page. Trying to get some donations for anyone who might have lost their collection. So if you are having trouble with stuff that happened in Harvey, with all the massive flooding that happened over last weekend or a couple weekends ago, hit Stephen Lewis up. He might be able to help you put your collection back together if you got a bunch of water damage. So that's super cool. And the only other thing that's going to be coming up here is we are going to have the rescheduling of that expanded tournament that we missed, I think.
It's SciTech.
Yeah, it's SciTech. So we'll be doing that soon. I'm not sure what date that was, but I know there's also going to be a league challenge at SciTech. It's a league challenge at SciTech on the 27th, which is also sort of going to be a Harvey donations sort of thing, I think. Yeah,
it's for the card shop owner.
Yeah, his house flooded.
Yeah, I was there like 2 days ago helping out with my friend Matt. We were helping clean out his stuff and everything. It was pretty bad.
That's rough.
Yeah. Well, yeah, hopefully everyone can make it out to that. I think for that SciTech League Challenge, it's like your entry is just spending at least $5 at the store. And that's a cool store. The owner is cool. And that's true for most of the shops here in town. So if y'all can make that, you should. The one thing I wanted to mention that I forgot to when we were talking about the cup was I think Shannon and Steve always do a good job. The judges usually do a good job. I feel like we always have tournaments that are run pretty well. So it's one of those things where like it's the same judges. It's Miguel. It's some of the other guys, and they're always like sticking around and donating their time. So I appreciate it. I'm sure everybody else here does. I think that might be it. So again, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah. Do you want to take any viewer questions? Like if y'all have any questions, really quickly, just let us know.
I think the one. I think the only. Sorry, go ahead.
I think someone was trying to take some credit for telling you to add the Jirachi attack.
Oh god, that's my friend Blade. So he was like, I told him that morning I'm like, hey, I'm just gonna play the Jirachi. He's like, the input he had was like, yeah, just play the Jirachi. Okay. So he's like, I'm the one that put in the Jirachi.
Okay. So
because I was talking about it.
He confirmed it.
He confirmed it. So he's like, because I was like, oh man, I don't have a Stardust Jirachi, but my girlfriend had a Stardust Jirachi. So I was like, hey, can I borrow your Star? So he's like, yeah, just play the Jirachi. That's it. Like he didn't know anything. He's just like, yeah, just play the Jirachi.
That's kind of, like, I don't know. I'm thinking.
I'm like, thanks, man. It was because of you.
Right. I think if that's how it went down, there's a little bit of credit, for the confirmation there.
Right. Just the confirmation. I was gonna put it in anyway, but thank you. But no, like a lot of the like the stuff like how I end up playing or anything is because like my friend Isaiah Williams, me and him are always talking and everything of like, oh, look at this list. Oh, what would you change in this list? This. Because we usually have like I guess like the same play style or something like that.
Yeah.
But like we're always giving each other input on like, oh, this or that because of this. So big shout out to Isaiah Williams.
Sweet. Is there anything else you want to plug or announce to people that are watching?
Well, pretty good if anybody has any questions. But
yeah, it doesn't look like there's too many questions coming in. So
yeah, so it's like just my big shout outs to my friend Mark White, Matt Richards, yeah, all of them. Kevin, if you're watching. But yeah. Yeah, it's just, appreciate everything. But yeah, and
Sweet.
You guys for doing this, and hopefully this channel blows up.
Got it.
Yeah, at least in Houston. At least in Houston, I want everybody in Houston to kind of, this to be like the hub of what went down last week, what's going down, who's who, and all that stuff. So, yeah, again, thanks for hopping on, kicking it off. I think that's it for now. We'll probably, if you want to be back on next week, just take Saturday's Cup and come back on.
Right, but my friend Adam Jones will be here, so let's see what he says about it.
All right, cool.
But yeah, he's coming from Louisiana, so shout out to him and all that. So.
Okay, right. Cool. Well, again, appreciate it. We'll stick this up on YouTube, right, Mike, and put it in the Facebook group. And yeah, get it going. All right, thanks, man. See you later.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Have a good day.